Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New York Empoleon's semi-final battle of the PBAL. I think it's Season 4 of the PBAL, but honestly, I'm not 100% sure right now. I will be taking on the West United Snom, coached by Ethan, or Eris, I'm not sure. But if he has a channel, links in the description below, so go check him out if he does actually upload his videos. Okay, so here's the situation. I'm going to go through his team, then I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on. But first thing you might notice before I even do that is that it's a new background. We're in a new apartment for the first time. I have no idea what the audio quality is like. It sounds a little bit more echoey. I haven't actually recorded a video here yet. This is the first one I'm recording. You guys might see some boxes and stuff behind me because I'm still trying to unpack. And then the other thing that's going on is also that today, like 10 minutes before I'm recording this, my finance final got posted, so I have to do that as well after this battle. So there's a lot of things going through my mind right now, but I really want to focus on this battle, get this done, and then I have a whole week to prep for the next one, right? Because if we win this, we have another one. So it's only the semifinals. We've got time left. Now, Ethan, we finished 7-2. Now, whatever you want to say about week 9's battle, we finished 7-2, and also I started in week 3. Ethan also finished 7-2, but he was undefeated for the first 6 weeks of the season. We did not end up facing each other. These teams didn't face each other, so he didn't face me before I joined or anything. These teams have not faced each other yet. So he finished 7-2. We finished 7-2. We just had a better differential, which allowed us to advance as the 1 seed. He's the 2 seed. I think that's irrelevant at this point. These are going to be 2 very competitive teams. So his team is Excadrill, Weavile, Hippowdon, Gardevoir, Mantine, Roserade, Acelgor, Scrafty, Turtonator, and Rotom. Little baby Rotom Spoop. And this team is a nightmare to prep for. It has answers and checks for everything. And if you look at my entire roster, top to bottom, please somebody name a Moonblast switch-in. I don't have one, and that has caused me to prep maybe suboptimally. Unfortunately, because of the fact that Gardevoir does so much work, but Gardevoir's not even the biggest threat in his team, right? I need things to break Roserade. I need things to break Hippowdon and Excadrill. I went through this team so many times, and one thing you'll notice is that he really doesn't have a good knockoff switch-in, but Bisharp has no way to enter either because it can't check anything or can't come in on anything. So it's like those kind of interactions, right? Like everything is susceptible to knockoff and wants its item, and I would prefer to actually click that attack most often. But then I can't switch in on an Excadrill, a Weavile with low kick, a Hippowdon, Gardevoir spamming Moonblast. I really can't switch in on that. I don't want to take a Scald from a Mantine. I don't want to take a Sleep Powder from a Roserade. You know, there's just so many threats in top to bottom. Turtonator, Scrafty, Rotom, they all have things that I don't want to deal with. So I couldn't even justify bringing some of the Mons that had the best moves and most spammable moves against his team. So some of these sets are not my preferred sets, if we're being honest. I had to make some concessions here and there, and even till the end, you know, if this battle is hacksy like it can be, and you'll see some of my moves and why that's going to be the case later on, is maybe out of my control anyway. But I think this is the team that has the best chance of leading me to the finals. These are the best 6 Mons, and the way that I'm going to get there is going to be through very smart play. I'm not going to rush. I know it's only 20 minutes, and sometimes you're tempted to rush, but I'm going to be careful, take my time. I know the calcs, so I can make the moves intelligently. Obviously, I'm going to have the calcs up as well for important moments just to double check, but I do have a vague idea of most of the calcs that are going into this match. So the first thing we're going to be leading off with here is going to be our Janaf, our Braviary. It is scarfed but adamant, so it speed ties with a scarf Gardevoir that also allows it to outspeed a no sand Excadrill. It outspeeds a Weavile. Does not outspeed a Acelgor if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not super stressed about him running max speed Acelgor. He might, you know, for the Pult, but that's not the end of the world if he does decide to do that. Defog is very, very likely going to be something I end up needing to click mid-game and potentially sacking my Braviary. Bravebird does so much damage, let's be honest. He has really very limited switch-ins to Bravebird that also can take a close combat on a good prediction, right? Rotom might be his only one, and Turtonator can sort of take one and be okay if it's physically defensive, and Hippowdon's all right with it, but none of those really want to just take tons of damage out of nowhere, so Defog, the real thing here is that Roserade is a problem. Roserade is such a nuisance for my team, both its stab combination and the fact that it has Sleep Powder and its spikes and toxic spikes setup. So spikes is a real big issue, and I do have to manage that. So Defog is going to be really useful for something that doesn't take spikes damage, doesn't get poisoned by toxic spikes, and can switch in on the Roserade potentially. If something else is asleep, especially can switch in on the Roserade, and is going to be something that I'm going to be happy to leave in there, clicking Bravebird most of the time, or clicking U-turn on a good prediction to him going into Hippowdon or something like that. Next up is going to be my Lapras. Lapras is, this is another mon that I was like, I don't love this set, but I can't think, I need this coverage, right? So it's Toxic, Ice Shard, Surf, and Freeze Dry. And this thing is going to be max defense and going to have, you know, pretty much infinite defensive investment. I wanted to run Body Press because Body Press is really good against his team, but I need water and ice coverage to handle most of his threats because it covers so much of his team, just those two. Ice Shard's so useful for an Excadrill that's getting out of hand or something that just needs a little bit of extra chip, especially something that can switch into the Weavile like this can, and maybe if it hits Sash, I just click it and just get rid of it. Toxic is really good against things like the Rotom that can switch in, things like the Hippowdon that might be able to take a water or an ice type attack without dying. Mantine is another issue for this. So, you know, Mantine can always come in if I don't run Freeze Dry. If I don't run Ice Shard, then I lose to those threats that can set up. Surf is really good. It's just more powerful against things like the Hippowdon. And then Toxic was really good against some of those extra mons. But I really wanted Body Press. I really wanted Heal Bell. Like, this thing had such 4 move slot syndrome this week. But this is the set I decided to go with. We'll see how it goes. I am, as you'll notice, actually running a minus speed nature because nothing on his team is base 60 or around there. And I figured having the extra little bit of damage from Ice Shard, why not? So next up, we have our Dragapult. Dragapult is going to be offensive this week, especially offensive primarily. A little bit of attack investment with a minus special defense nature. Once again, like my last opponent, this guy's offense is primarily physical, the ones I'm threatened by. Roserade, his special attacker, Mantine, his special attacker. I resist their stabs for the most part. I mean, obviously I don't resist flying, but like resist all of the other stabs from them. So this thing can run a minus special attack nature, special defense nature, excuse me, giving it just that little bit of extra kick for the U-turn, and that chip damage does help. I am in such a position where like Hippowdon lives 2 attacks from like 2 Braviary Brave Birds, but it doesn't live 2 Braviary Brave Birds and U-turn and Stealth Rocks, right? So like I just need that little bit of chip, just chip it down, chip it down, chip it down, and then Braviary can spam if it gets into the position where it can do that. This thing is also going to be Choice Scarf this week, as you guys might have noticed. It is going to outspeed. It has enough speed to outspeed Excadrill in sand, and I'm running the Hydro Pump, which can almost take out an Excadrill after Rock's chip. It is a roll to take it out for Rock's chip. It can almost take it out from full, and it's... if I can get any chip on it, or even put it in range of Ice Shard from Lapras, that's going to be fine with me. Or Life Orb. Like, if it takes 1 round of Life Orb, Hydro Pump can kill him, so especially after Rocks. So I wanted to run Scald for the consistency of landing it, but I felt like Hydro Pump was necessary. Fire Blast is similar for the Roserade. Flamethrower would have been nice, but it doesn't do enough damage, so I decided I needed to run these moves that do a little bit more damage because they actually give me that important range to be able to kill instead of guaranteed not. And then Shadow Ball seems fairly spammable against his team if I can get into a late game scenario where this thing just wants to spam and attack. He doesn't have a ton of resists to it. It does check that Gardevoir really, really nicely. It does check the Rotom really nicely. Other things that could potentially switch in on the Hydro Pump and the Fire Blast and not die to them right away. And then the U-turn is just good for early game momentum, trying to get into a position where I will succeed in the late game with this. But like I said, I have never landed a Hydro Pump in a competitive battle before. I have landed Fire Blast. Those are easier for some reason, even though they theoretically have the same accuracy. But if I have to click Hydro Pump, there's a very good chance I will miss. I will get killed by an Iron Head or an Earthquake from that Excadrill, and I will end up in a position where I need to really play around a threat that should have potentially been handled, right? Most of the time would have been handled. So that's something I'm considering and keeping in mind, but not necessarily like preparing actively for. Obviously, if I'm putting this in a position where I want to click Hydro Pump, I want to land it and I want to be able to continue on the game without being hacked to death. But I need the offensive prowess on this thing. Now, there is one side of this team that I have not yet shown you guys, and it is going to be coming up starting with this Steelix. Steelix is going to be Iron Defense, Body Press, Stealth Rock, and Crunch. It is also a minus speed nature, trying to underspeed his slowest mon, Turtonator, and being able to just relax gives me plus defense, max defense, Iron Defense, Body Press. His only switch into that is Rotom, like, at all. I'm Lumberry, so that if it tries to Willow me, because that's the only thing Rotom can really do to a Steelix, I can just get rid of that, crunch it right away, does 60 to 80% if he's uninvested, and if he is invested, I can still do over 50%. That's amazing. And then Iron Defense plus Body Press doesn't care if I get burned, right? So he goes for the Willow, I crunch, he gets it, I Lum out, crunch, get 60% off, he goes for another Willow, burns me, I crunch again, he lives on like 10%. As long as he's not pain split, there's not much he can do. I can just crunch again, kill him, and then Body Press is still going to be doing maximum damage because I'm not I'm not going off my attack stat, so it doesn't matter that I'm burned. And yeah, I'm taking a little bit of chip every turn, but this thing is so naturally bulky, and if I can Iron Defense, the Hippowdon doesn't care. I don't care about Earthquakes on the Hippowdon, and Body Press is still doing a whole lot of damage. You can almost 2-hit KO a Hippowdon at +2 if he's not physically defensive. If he is at +4, I can 2-hit KO it. Excadrill is never going to take that. Weavile's never going to take that. Then there's the Mantine and the Roserade that are a little bit of a problem. But if you are going to switch in a Roserade on a Steelix, you are a bold man, because that thing has no physical defense at all. And if I'm +4 already, Body Press is doing a whole lot. But I do have switch-ins for the Roserade, so I'm not going to necessarily leave this thing in just to die, especially if it's healthy, because it can come back in instead of an Iron Defense and continue to do so much damage. Now, there's another reason that this is so good for this team right now, and that is going to be this Trick Room side of the battle. Yeah, I have 2 Scarfers on a Trick Room team, and honestly, I think Trick Room is my primary strategy. This thing can get off a Trick Room fairly reliably, since it is defensive. Well, it's max HP. It's not actually defensive, but it's quiet-natured, so it underspeeds, again, everything, including the Turtonator, and Psychic 2-hit KOs everything that doesn't resist it, so basically the Weavile and the Gardevoir, and Shadow Ball is going to just do so much damage to the Gardevoir, and Focus Blast is going to annihilate the Weavile. Now, Focus Blast, it's another one of those moves that it's a necessary evil. This thing did not get Aura Sphere in the generational shift. I really wanted a fighting type move for the Weavile. I thought about Drain Punch, if we're being perfectly honest, because it's 100% accurate, but it doesn't OHKO if I'm not going to be running any physical attack, and I figured I want to maximize all the damage that I can do. So I'm just going to run the Focus Blast, and if I can land it, amazing. And that Weavile is just not a threat at all if I can land that Focus Blast. Trick Room is outstanding in this matchup. It is so incredibly volatile against his entire strategy, which involves a lot of mid-tier speed or high-tier speed mons. Things like Roserade at like 90 speed, Excadrill and Sand, they're all so fast, and I just Trick Room. I can go first for 5 turns, well, 4 turns, I guess, and I can just continuously wail on his team, pretty much claiming kills every turn of Trick Room. If I can get 2 Trick Rooms up, I'm pretty sure I'm in great shape to win this game. 1 Trick Room, and I'm putting myself in a very advantageous position, because there is a Mon on my roster very similar to Bisharp in its style of play, which is hit things really hard, but with better coverage, better typing in this particular matchup, and is better under Trick Room because it's actually slower. So we are running a Brave Nature. We are actually running this thing with 14 IVs in speed. I don't usually talk about the IVs of my Mons. Usually they're pretty self-explanatory. If I'm running 0 speed or running a negative speed nature, I'll often run 0 speed. But this one is running 14 speed, but a negative speed nature, which allows it to underspeed Scrafty, but outspeed 4 EVs of speed in Hippowdon that's otherwise uninvested and neutral natured. So, because I think this thing, Hippowdon can come in on this as the Trick Room is going to expire. So yes, the Hippowdon will outspeed me in Trick Room. That's fine. I'm not too worried about it, because the Trick Room will almost always expire while the Hippowdon's on the field. And then I want to be able to click Leaf Blade twice. So I click Leaf Blade, he goes for an Earthquake, it doesn't kill. And then he tries to slack off on when the Trick Room expires, and I can click Leaf Blade again and kill him before he gets the opportunity to do that, because he was probably stalling out the last turn of Trick Room. Leaf Blade's a guaranteed critical hit because I'm running Leak. Otherwise, these other moves are all 50% chance to crit. Poison Jab can kill a non-Kibia Berry Gardevoir with a little bit of bulk investment. Otherwise, everything just dies. Roserade's going to die to a Brave Bird. Half his team dies to a close combat, and then Leaf Blade covers the rest of it. Mantine is the one thing that can kind of switch in on this once or twice. So if Mantine's at full HP and there's no rocks up, then I've got a problem. But if rocks are up, Leaf Blade's going to kill the Mantine in 2 hits, and I'm going to underspeed it. So this thing literally gets 3 kills if I can set it up right with Trick Room. And if it gets 3 kills, his team is so much easier to deal with, right? Now, I can't set up Trick Room on turn 1. That's not the play. I need to make sure the Roserade gets it, the Reuniclus gets in safely, and usually comes in on like the Roserade. It's not Overcoat. I almost ran Overcoat, so I couldn't take a Sleep Powder, but I decided just to not run that. So if he does manage to land the Sleep Powder on the attempt for Trick Room, it's super annoying, but it is what it is. But if I do get the Trick Room off, I can switch into this thing and get probably 3 kills. And that is incredible for my team, because this thing can take almost any one hit, and then it just decides to just kill things. And that's my strategy. It's sort of twofold, right? It's start off with the Scarfers or the Steelix, go out into the Reuniclus, get the Trick Room off, try to kill some stuff, then come back in with the Scarfers and things like the Steelix and proceed to finish the game. Tibarn, Sirfetch'd, you are not a sweeper. You are a breaker, but you kill things. It's like a killer breaker. I've never really had that type of mon, because the goal of this thing isn't to win the game. It's to put myself in such a position that he doesn't have the resources to kill the other mons on my roster. So I need to put it in at the right time when it has the chance to do that. It can't come in if it's not under Trick Room, because the speed stat is just not great, or unless it's like the Hippowdon is super weakened and I can just go for like a close combat or a really easy Brave Bird on the rest of his roster or something like that. But this thing is so vital to my strategy here, and we'll see what happens. I think there's a lot to be said for whether or not this strategy is going to work. There's a couple of mons like the Lapras that I wanted different moves on but couldn't afford to fit them, and different items. I don't love locking myself into a move with Braviary. I really wish I didn't have to do that, but I need the speed. I need to outspeed things, and so I have to run Scarf. So it's a really interesting give and take. I think this team has potential. It can certainly win this matchup, and if there are no hacks at all involved, then I will almost always find a way to come out ahead in this matchup. That's not the story of my life. One way or another, there's probably going to be hacks. Of course, if I get a crit Leaf Blade, it's not hacks, guys. It's guaranteed. It's 100% chance. But thank you all for watching this Team Builder. I will see you guys all back here tomorrow with the battle for the semifinals and a spot in the last two. One of the two of us will be in that finals match. I would prefer it be me. I can't control it, obviously. I can do whatever I can to try to win this match, but I can't actively make it happen. But I'm going to try. I would love to be in my first finals match of Gen 8 with this team, which is so much fun to use. I'm not ready for it to be over. I've got finals coming up. I've got other things going on, but I would love one more battle with this team to give it its proper due and showing in that last battle. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys all back here tomorrow. Take care, everybody.